The following episode depicts acts of violence and murder. Listener discretion is advised. It's the oldest unsolved murder case on file with the Worcester Police Department Detective Unit. March 11th, 1951. 20-year-old Irish immigrant Sean Goggin was gunned down inside the entrance of a home on Fairhaven Road in Worcester's Burncoat neighborhood. Two men in trench coats, one wearing a handkerchief to cover his face, fired 3 shots into the Fairhaven Road home, with one bullet striking Sean in the chest and killing him. As Sean slumped to the ground, the men ran off across the front lawn, hopped into a car, and sped away. More than 70 years later, the murder of Sean Goggin remains unsolved.
Unsolved Worcester is brought to you by the following sponsors. Follow the crowd through the doors of Donut Homies and say hi to Haley Noel, the donut queen of Worcester's Canal District. Donut Homies is open inside the Worcester Public Market at 160 Green Street every Wednesday through Sunday at 11 a.m. Online ordering with delivery and pickup options is available at donuthomies.com. Follow Donut Homies on Facebook and Instagram for monthly menu drops, specials, and more. Donut Homies, everything sweeter with the homies.
Welcome to Unsolved Worcester. I'm your host, Dan Yeager. Today's episode, we share the oldest unsolved murder case on file with the Worcester Police Department. The unsolved murder of 20-year-old Sean Goggin on March 11th, 1951. The last of 10 unsolved murder cases we explore during Season 4 of Unsolved Worcester. It's possible Sean was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Victim of a botched attempted robbery, he was shot in the heart by a man wearing a mask. Unsolved Worcester takes a deep dive every Tuesday and Thursday into the unsolved murders and missing persons cases under investigation by the Worcester Police Department's Detective Unit. Our goal is to remind residents of the Worcester area, both past and present, that there are dozens of unsolved homicides and missing persons cases that need resolution. We hope we can be the spark needed to solve a case. Be sure to visit Unsolved Worcester on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen to all episodes for free at unsolvedworcester.com on your favorite podcast streaming platforms, and watch our accompanying videos on YouTube. It's around 10:30 p.m. on Sunday, March 11th, 1951. The phone rings at the home of Cornelius Herlihy at 191 Fairhaven Road. Herlihy picks up the phone, and the person on the other side identifies himself as Mr. Anderson. The man said to Herlihy, "I'll be able to pay you tomorrow." Herlihy told the person that he didn't know a Mr. Anderson or about being owed any money. He said he had the wrong number, and Herlihy hung up the phone. 15 minutes later, a rap at the back door of the home startled Herlihy. His family members were already asleep or getting ready to go to bed. Who could be at the back door at this hour? Herlihy looked out the window and saw 2 men standing outside in the rain. He waved for them to come around to the front of the house. The men announced they were from Western Union with a telegram. Herlihy went to the front door. When Herlihy was opening the front door, his nephew's friend, Sean Goggin appeared behind Herlihy wearing pajamas. Sean wanted to see who was at the house late at night, and likely was curious if the telegram could have been for him. Sean, a 20-year-old Irish immigrant, had only been in Worcester for 2 weeks. He was living with the Herlihys on Fairhaven Road. He was supposed to start a job as a pattern maker in the city the next day. As Herlihy opened the door, the men pointed guns at Herlihy and fired 3 shots. The bullets zipped past Herlihy. One bullet stuck in the ceiling of the home's entryway. A second bullet ricocheted and was later found in Sean's pajamas. A third bullet landed squarely above Sean's heart. Sean crumbled to the ground. 2 suspects ran off. According to witnesses, the suspects hopped into a small 4-door black sedan parked on a nearby street and sped away. 15 minutes later, around 11 p.m., Sean Goggin died in the entryway of 191 Fairhaven Road. Sean Goggin had only been in Worcester for about 2 weeks when he was killed on March 11th, 1951. Sean had moved into the home of Cornelius and Ellen Herlihy at 191 Fairhaven Road. Sean was good friends with Herlihy's nephew, Donald Herlihy, who lived with his aunt and uncle on Fairhaven Road. The two had met while attending school in Ireland in the late 1940s. Sean immigrated to Toronto, Canada in 1949 from Youghal, a seaside town in County Cork, Ireland. He lived in Toronto for 2 years before moving to Worcester. Sean had asked Donald for $1,000 to help him immigrate from Canada to Massachusetts. Cornelius Herlihy claimed Sean, let him move into his home, and helped Sean find a job. Sean was scheduled to start his new job on Monday, March 12, 1951, the morning after he was killed, as a pattern maker at S. Ralph Cross & Sons on Mayfield Street in Worcester. The company designed grinding equipment patterns. In an interview with the Telegram and Gazette in 2012, Donald Herlihy said you couldn't find a nicer person than Sean. He said Sean could sing and dance well, and women liked being in his company. The day after Sean's murder, Cornelius Herlihy told police that Sean didn't have any enemies. He really didn't know anyone in Worcester beyond Cornelius, his wife Ellen, and his nephew Donald. Interestingly enough, in the early stages of the investigation into Sean's murder, Worcester police contacted authorities in Toronto to find out more about Sean and were curious to see if Sean had any enemies across the border. But Toronto police didn't have much to share with the WPD. Couldn't find a single person that knew him. Sean lived in a boarding house in Toronto, and even though he lived there for 2 years, surprisingly, the owners of the rooming house couldn't recall who Sean was. When police arrived at the murder scene on Fairhaven Road, they found 3 empty bullet casings from a .32 caliber Colt and a full cartridge clip from a 9mm Luger at the front porch. The .32 caliber was the gun that killed Sean Goggin. On the front lawn, they discovered footprints in the mud, and not far from the footprints was a brown felt hat size 7. Believed to be dropped by mistake by one of the shooters. Police described the 2 assailants as one tall, one short. One suspect was around 5 feet 9 inches tall. Dark-colored handkerchief covered his face. He was wearing a light-colored raincoat. The other suspect was roughly 5 feet 4 inches tall. Cornelius Herlihy said the shorter suspect was standing in the dark, away from the light coming from inside the home. Herlihy couldn't see the shorter man's face. Police later realized that one of the men had unscrewed the bulb from the outside light above the entry to the home. Herlihy told police he thought he heard one of the men say, "This is a hold-up," before brandishing his weapon. During the initial investigation, police were looking at Sean's murder as an attempted robbery gone horribly wrong, or as the police called it at the time, a bungled mess. Cornelius Herlihy was the sales manager at United Dairy System on Route 20 in Worcester. Police surmised that the robbers could have possibly wanted to kidnap Herlihy, take him to United Dairy System to open the safe. Herlihy told police he knew the combination and that there was $400 in the safe. He did tell police he couldn't imagine anyone who would be aiming a gun at him or Sean. 2 weeks after Sean's murder, the investigation took a pair of Worcester police detectives to Quincy to interview a couple who were victims of a home invasion and robbery, which had several similarities to what occurred on Fairhaven Road in Worcester. On March 22, 1951, the couple received 2 mysterious phone calls at their Quincy home, and roughly 15 minutes later, 2 men with guns appeared at their front door and forced their way inside. Police found the Quincy couple tied up in their home with adhesive tape. Investigators from the WPD showed the couple photographs of possible suspects in the Goggin case, but the couple were unable to match those suspects to the ones that robbed them. The next stop in the Goggin murder investigation would take Worcester police to the Grafton State Police Barracks to help question 3 young men from Somerville. It was June 1951, roughly 3 months since Sean was killed on Fairhaven Road. The 3 Somerville teenagers admitted to holding up gas stations in Southborough and several taxi drivers in the Boston area. The teens were arrested by Worcester police officers and state troopers following the Southborough gas station robbery, but they denied any knowledge of the attempted robbery on Fairhaven Road in March. Police didn't have much to go on, except that a German Luger was discovered in the home of one of the robbers after their arrest. Months later, in September 1951, the state police created a special detail of detectives to requisition the evidence in Sean's murder and the attempted Fairhaven Road home invasion. In February 1954, as the investigation continued in the murder of Sean Goggin, Worcester detectives questioned Edward Keenan of Sturbridge. Keenan was being held in Essex County Jail for the murder of a 21-year-old Methuen man. Like Sean, the man was shot and killed after opening the door to his home in an attempted robbery. And the same kind of .32 caliber Colt pistol was used in the murder. Keenan did admit that he knew where Fairhaven Road was in Worcester, but he denied any involvement in Sean's killing. During the course of the investigation, police interviewed anyone in the area that owned a .32 caliber Colt pistol, and even traveled to New York City to check a gun to see if it matched. But investigators never found the weapon. As the years went by, police had nearly all but come to the conclusion that Sean's murder was the case of mistaken identity, and that there was a good chance the 2 men that killed Sean had simply gone to the wrong address. Police believe they panicked when Cornelius Herlihy opened the door on that rainy night in March 1951 and fired the shots that killed Sean out of distress. In a letter to Sean's parents, Worcester Police Chief William Finneran said their investigation revealed that Sean wasn't involved in any gang-related activity in Worcester and was an innocent victim of the attempted robbery. Days after his murder, Sean Goggin's body was claimed by relatives in Boston. His body was later flown to his family home in County Cork, Ireland. 3 weeks after his death, on April 7th, 1951, a Requiem High Mass was celebrated in Sean's memory at St. Paul's Cathedral on High Street in downtown Worcester. The week after that, a month's Mind Mass was held on April 12th, marking 1 month since Sean's murder at Our Lady of the Rosary Church. A benefit dance was held at the Ancient Order of Hibernians at its former location on Trumbull Street in downtown Worcester. 400 people attended the benefit to help raise money for Sean's funeral expenses. Sean is buried near his family's home in Youghal, Ireland. During the summer of 2012, the Worcester police reopened Sean Goggin's murder case and submitted evidence for DNA testing. To date, there have been no updates of DNA matches in Sean's case. And more than 70 years later, Sean Goggin's murder remains unsolved. Thank you for listening. I'm Dan Yeager. Don't miss another episode. Click the notification button to get alerts when new episodes of Unsolved Worcester drop. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, please consider clicking the like button for us. If you subscribe, the next episodes will show up in your feed. Click the bell on the right and select all, and you'll get a notification of when the next episode is ready. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, please leave them in the comments below. We do read them all and respond to as many as we can. Anyone with information about what happened to Sean Goggin are asked to contact the Worcester Police Detective Bureau at 508-799-8651 or send an anonymous text to 274-637. Write TIP WPD plus your message, or send an anonymous web-based message at worcesterma.gov/police. Come back in June for the start of Unsolved Worcester Season 5, and stay tuned for a special intermission episode with Bob Ward, reporter for Boston 25 News and host of New England's Unsolved. Season 5 will start with the October 2006 death of 17-year-old Travis Monroe. Special thanks to the Worcester Public Library, the Worcester Police Department, the City of Worcester, and our sponsors for making this possible. Information on the murder of Sean Goggin was gathered from multiple resources, including the Telegram and Gazette. The Unsolved Worcester podcast music is provided by Tom Lebelzik of the Worcester Jazz Collective. This episode is written and produced by Pat Sargent. Drone footage provided by Ron Scott at New England Sky Pics. Videography and editing by Colin Turner. Sponsorship information announcer Chandler Walsh. This program is supported in part by a grant from the Worcester Arts Council and the National Endowment for the Arts. To find out more about how National Endowment for the Arts grants impact individuals and communities, visit www.arts.gov.